Hi, and welcome to another episode of Nursing Your Way to Wealth, where a mental health nurse and an accountant talk about wealth creation, personal development, and financial independence in the UK to help you live the life you deserve. Hello, and welcome back. This is episode 68. Firstly, a short apology. Alex and I both had a little holiday last week, so apologies for the interruption to the usual service. Today's episode we've titled Six Money Milestones, which is just some thoughts that I had whilst I was at work on a lunch break last week. And I was just thinking about perhaps an order of money milestones that you will hit and meet over your investing journey as you go from like a relative new person into it to eventually reaching financial independence. These are, of course, kind of my own thoughts. We'll chat about a little bit about each of them. I'm sure, Alex, you'll have a slightly different opinion to me on some of them as well, because we think slightly differently about stuff. We're going to do, it'll follow the kind of the same pattern. We'll do a return on heartbeats, then the main body, a nice topical, reasonable or ridiculous, and then a quick summary. So, firstly, Alex, return on heartbeats for me this week has to be you and your wife going on honeymoon after your wedding. So 10 days in Crete. If you could describe that in 3 words, what would they be?
Yeah, hi everybody, and hi Alex. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, so I had a really nice time on honeymoon in Crete. So the weather was glorious, and we did pretty much nothing but sit down, read, and eat for about 10 days. So that was really refreshing. And the 3 words I would use, I would say one would be relaxing, definitely relaxing. Two, it was romantic. It was a very really nice setting. So the hotel was on the built into the edge of a cliff, so you had complete sea views wherever you looked. And then the third one was we did eat a lot and we did drink a lot, a little bit like a Henry VIII banquet every night. So probably gluttonous was the third word I would come up with. But would highly recommend. I'd also mention it was an adult only hotel, so it's the first time I've actually stayed in an adult only hotel. I've stayed before in on an adult only campsite, and the yeah, it was really quite a peculiar mix of people that were there, and but very nice, really relaxing, and no screaming children splashing in the pool, which was a bit odd actually. But yeah, really nice. So would recommend that for anybody that doesn't have children or would have got a place to leave their children whilst they go on holiday.
That's it. Yeah, we're not advocating leave your kids behind
No.
unattended and go to Crete for a fabulous holiday. But it sounds like you had a lovely, lovely time. And I, in between, didn't go to Crete, of course, but I actually went to Disneyland in Paris. There was a pool there. There were many children, and I got splashed in the face a lot. So, yeah, kind of chalk and cheese, I think, for that one for sure. But no, I'm glad you enjoyed it. You 100% deserve the time off. Yeah, so it's lovely to hear that you both enjoyed that. In terms of the main body of the show and money milestones, these are just kind of ideas I had on a lunch break whilst I was eating lunch. We're going to do them in order. There's a little bit of nuance, of course, to each of them, and everyone's personal finance situation is just that. It's personal, so they might not perfectly align. But we'd love to hear from you if you think differently, if you think there's something glaringly obvious here that we've missed, or you have a totally different list that you'd like to ping our way, please do. You can email that in to nursingyourwaytowealth@gmail.com, and both Alex and I will pick that up and respond to you. But the first one I have, when you're kind of starting off taking your finances like seriously and you really start learning about this stuff, is to have a buffer in cash. So I've put down as point one having £1,000 in cash in an easily accessible account. So not invested. It would be something like a high interest savings account.
Yeah, I think that's really solid. And I think one reason it's quite a big milestone actually, because it takes a while to build up to £1,000. So even getting there, you're developing that habit. And I think that's a nice, yeah, decent milestone. And £1,000 is quite a lot of money. And yeah, being able to have that, got the discipline to build it up, leave it in a savings account. I think that's a really solid milestone.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I just think back to when I first started learning things like this. I was earning about £1,100 a month,
Hmm.
and able to put away very little, like less than £50 a month. I'd probably be able to save. So having like a four-figure
Yeah,
amount in your savings account actually feels humongous.
yeah,
Now we're way further on, and it doesn't seem quite so big. But back then it was like, oh, I'm going to be all right. I feel a lot safer now.
agree.
It's just
Yeah,
buffering life, isn't it?
it is. And I think I always think if something goes wrong, £1,000 is more than likely going to cover the cost, whether that be a boiler break or your car needs repairing, or worst case, you can buy a car for £1,000. Might only last you a week or two, but you can actually get. So I think there's a lot you
Yeah.
can do with that money. And I think, as you said, is that's the first time I think you get a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit of stress reduction,
Yes.
a bit of a buffer against life. Yeah, so the and again, I think having that money there, it does two things. One, it provides a little bit of sanity and safety, helps you sleep at night, and two, it prevents you having to borrow on credit if you do have a like something that you need some cash for. Yeah, so number two is being out of consumer debt. So I haven't included student loans within that, but just out of high interest debts, pay those down, pay them off, close the cards, cut them up. Be very mindful about how you got there in the first place. Change those money behaviors and habits because you don't want to be paying loads. You don't want to be paying 20, 30 or more percent interest on credit card debt at all. So the quicker those are gone, the better. We've done a whole episode on getting out of debt. I want to say it's episode 4 or 6 of the pod. It's definitely less than 10. Where we covered this way early on in the run. But Alex, any other thoughts on Money Milestone 2?
No, I definitely would agree with that. I think again, it's one of those the point you made around is the mentality of being really aware of how you got there, and there's like tricks that you can do, yeah, like closing the accounts, cutting up the cards. Like there's a physical thing you can do to stop yourself spending on them again, but also I think being really mindful of it and almost that feeling of how horrible it feels when your interest payment every month is actually higher than the amount that you can pay off the balance. Like it's a horrible spiral. So almost being really conscious of that when you've cleared them. And I think this is probably one of the biggest stress relievers of people that I've spoken to as well. Is like the real like you feel a foot taller with the weight off your shoulders from clearing those kind of horrible credit cards.
Yeah, I mean, the interest there at that point, we talk a lot about compounding interest working for you to make you wealthier. If you're paying interest on credit card debts or any other kind of loan or debt, it's making someone else wealthier, not you.
Yeah. And I think
We
just
always
the
want that to be in your favor. Yeah.
absolutely, yeah, sorry, Alex, I was just going to say, if when we talk about investing, you're probably going to get, if you do over decades long, the averages are probably, anywhere from 7 to 9% in the stock market. A credit card, you're looking at easily mid 20s, if not mid 30s, or even higher as percent. So I would almost, yeah, if you could earn 35% a year on interest and on your returns on your own money, you would be rich beyond belief within about 10 years. So just the magnitude of what you can actually earn, like realistically on the stock market versus what the credit card companies are earning from you is I think a timely reminder.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why Visa and MasterCard, they're both debt free businesses. They don't owe any money whatsoever. And I learned that from one of the pods I did with a lady called Laura from the company Financial, who support women in finance. They are debt free businesses because people, consumers like us, or other kind of regular people, are paying their bills and more. So they don't have to borrow, they have cash flow for stuff like that. Yeah, and I think here I would add uh, kind of milestone 2.5, similar vein, have a solid emergency fund. So build up a pot of money, 3 to 6 months of expenses. Like your mileage may vary. It might be a little bit less if you've got a really secure job. It might be a lot more if you don't, or you're perhaps self employed and your income is variable. But I would add in here, slot in Milestone 2.5 have a good emergency fund, and it's really the same principle as point one, the £1,000 in cash. It's a buffer against the unpredictability of life.
Yeah, I think that's really sensible as a milestone. And I think it, yeah, definitely adds that. I think you fill that bucket up, and then you know that the buckets going forwards are the ones that are going to make you wealthy and going to lead to financial independence. So it's quite a
Hmm.
nice to know that you've no consumer debt and you've got an emergency fund. You've almost got clear air in front of you then, in that every pound that you then put away is going to be invested to make you wealthier and closer to financial independence. So I get
Yeah.
that kind of sense of accomplishment by having that. Oh, I did. Got there.
Yeah, definitely. And it just means the money that you earn, you work hard for it, and it means you're very, very likely to keep it.
Yeah.
That's what we have insurances for, and that's what we have emergency funds for. So you can keep that money invested and working for you. So eventually you can work less because your money is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, the hard work for you. Um, Number three, so money milestone three could be a bit contentious, but I've put here above average salary or significantly lower bills, i.e., if you inherit a home or you've paid off your mortgage and you have much, much smaller monthly expenses than other people. I feel like obviously the more income you have, the easier it is to have discretionary income. And then you can save and invest a larger portion of that. It will be much easier, for example, someone who earns £200,000 a year is going to reach like financial independence, have a good level of wealth more quickly, unless they spend all of it or more. Again, you must live below your means, of course. It's much easier for someone earning that much money to invest properly and in a way that will generate wealth, wealth building behaviors, not wealth destroying behaviors, than it is if someone is on much, much lower salaries than that. For example, £20,000 a year, unless you have a paid off house and you don't have a mortgage or a rent bill. Um, I don't know, Alex, if you think any differently than that. A little bit contentious in terms of there's a lot of nuance here around where you get your house from, the circumstances of that, whether you have those kind of large monthly outgoings or not.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. I think the way I see it is these are like big enablers to financial freedom. So it's almost like it's a continuous step, I think. But so it's almost I think my view is you should always be trying to develop yourself to build skills. That means you can get higher salaries. So whether that's through additional training or working at or trying to get the promotions and things like those are the skills and activities which can be really beneficial. And I think the point of yeah that I think the point here is creating enough breathing room between your income and your expenses that you've got then a decent amount that you can invest every month. And so for me, it's probably looking at like what's the savings rate that you would look to aim for. So that could be increasing your savings rate from 10% of your monthly pay to 20% or 30% or 40%, 50%. And that you should always be trying to build that, um, increase that savings rate, um, and funneling that savings into your investments. But yeah, I think I know certainly for me, like with milestones, like when I qualified as an accountant, you get a boost to your salary because you've got a certain set of skills. Um, and so that was definitely I feel a step change in my amount that I was able to save, and my savings rate increased alongside that. But your point of you can't let the expenses run away with you. So I always try and look at my savings rate as the goal. So I get where you're coming from with number three, and I don't disagree. I think it's more yeah the way I would see it is your savings rate.
Yeah, I think it's a good marker, isn't it? So, like, you hear a lot of people within the FI communities in this kind of space that they always talk about, say, 50% of your income or more. And you hear some really extreme examples, not extreme, but some examples of where people are saving 80, 90% of their income um, in order to put the majority of that money away. And they do kind of things like they'll only cycle to work and they'll eat lunch at the free canteen every day or anything like that. And they'll just live an incredibly frugal lifestyle because they're just so focused on this one thing of getting to this number, getting to this kind of life that they'd like to live, or the life they want to live. But I think it's a good idea. To be honest with you, I'm not 100% on what my current savings rate is for my household. I want to say it's somewhere between 30 and 50%. And that's a broad kind of spectrum. But I think it's somewhere in there. If I had to pinpoint something, I'd have an educated guess at it's somewhere about 37, 38%. Um, yeah. Do you have any idea on that figure for you and your household or not?
Yeah, so I don't actually know for the household. I know for me um it's around I think it's about 58%
Oh, okay.
when I look.
It's
Um
incredible.
but what I think, yeah, that's taken into account. So we have like a lodger, so that get half of that money
Hmm.
um as well. But yeah, that's kind of the range. But yeah, I would say for the household it's probably about 50%.
Yeah.
So
So with that in mind and that figure, for every month that you work, you're knocking a month off your retirement date. So you're getting closer and closer to it.
yes,
So every month of working and living as you do buys you a month of freedom.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
lovely.
So yeah, that's kind of where, yeah, I would say we are. But yeah, I don't actually know the exact number for the household. But yeah,
No,
I think it's
I
around that kind of
half expected
45,
you.
50%,
Yeah, I half expected you, being the accountant, to say it's 42.98.
which has decreased by 2 percentage points since
Yeah,
12 months ago. Yeah, yeah, no,
no,
it's
not even
around.
you are that organised, right?
No, no, it's I have my annual income and expenses and
Hmm.
yeah, forecast that out.
Okay. Okay. So that's yeah, number three. Number four, I've got either yeah, so money milestone four, I have either five or and then six figures worth of invested assets or money. So this is where you've started, you have some breakout income, so you have some spare money that you're not spending every month, or known as discretionary or just spare income, breakout income, whatever you call it. You start to make investments, as we've talked about before, and when those eventually they reach five figures, and you've got like £10,000 invested. Like I remember the day that I looked at my portfolio, and I saw it was just above 10,000. I think it was like 10,000 and like £4 or something. And I'd never seen a five figure sum in there ever, and I felt like that was actually a really momentous thing. And from there, it grows, and your habits are kind of fully set and formed by then, and you're just living life, kind of enjoying it as you go. And really, it's kind of autopilot at that point. I'm not quite at the six figures yet. I will be probably, I don't know if it will be this year, it'll be next year if things kind of persist the way they currently do. Um, but I think those figures in general, like having five figures and then six figures, they're big.
Mm. I Yeah, I would agree on that. I'm similar when I got to the 10,000 mark in my ISA. I was really yeah, you get I think because it is a lot of money actually when you step back on look at things. And yeah, I then got to six figures 18 months, 2 years ago. And that and I know that there's a famous quote from Charlie Munger, who was Warren Buffett's like business partner at Berkshire Hathaway, who said basically just do whatever you can, get to six figures and like get to that first 100,000 because that's almost the point in where compounding starts to really make an impact. So as an example, if you're saving £500 a month, that's £6,000 a year of your earned income that gets put into your investment, say into your ISA. But then when that's at 100,000, it's not unlikely that you'll get 6% return, certainly if you capture the dividends. And so your money has then earned what you would put into your ISA in a year. So say you get 6%, you get £6,000, your portfolio would increase by that amount. That's done a year's worth of your work from a few years ago. So that's where it starts to really kind of starts to build. And then if you were to get, you get to that crazy amount of, if you get to like £900,000 and then you get a 10% year growth in that year, that's £90,000. Your portfolio has lifted you basically to £1 million. So it's, I think that's a six-figure point is a big, big milestone because it does start to take off from there.
Yeah, and you really feel like it's the momentum is with you. And
Mm,
thinking about like the example of making an extra 6 grand a year, that's like if it's within an ISA, you're not paying any tax on that. It's
nope.
extra money kind of in your kind of net worth, for example.
Yeah.
You've not had to work for it. You've done the
Yeah.
past work. You've been smart with your money. You've done intelligent moves with it, and it's creating that for you. So I wonder if there's another kind of point in here of 4.5 or something where your portfolio makes as much as you do in a
Yeah.
given year.
Mm,
Is that where you're having two salaries come in if you're single, or three salaries potentially if you're married or you're part of a couple?
yeah. Yeah. I think that's a nice milestone to get to. Um, and I think, yeah, even looking at a portfolio in terms of, yeah, how many times my annual spending is that, or how many times my income have I got saved? Like they're quite nice metrics to be able to have and look at. So yeah, but I certainly for me that getting to the six figures is a really big milestone. Um,
It's huge, isn't it? And you'll get to the point where if you look at it, you break it down month by month, that the investment amount it might have gone up as much as your salary from your employment
yeah,
goes in. I've had 1 month where I've got tantalizingly close to that, but not quite there. So I'm still a little bit off
mm,
from that. I think it was within about £100 or something of that. Um, and it was
yeah.
a
But
it was
I
a
know what you
stalling
mean.
month, right, for the
It's
markets. And I was like, actually, I looked at it and I was like, oh, this has like made me another month's salary again. And I really kind of felt when they say the power of compounding being like the eighth wonder of the world, it's similar to that. I mean, it's not life changing at that point, but leave it to grow, and it absolutely can be.
yeah,
So
but it's definitely a glimmer, isn't
yeah,
it, of what
yeah,
it can do.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And you see, like when you look at people's portfolios, like you take Warren Buffett for example, he made most of his money after his is it 60th birthday or 80th birthday? Um,
I feel 65th birthday. I
yeah,
thought it was. Yeah, yeah,
and it's a little bit like that J curve of things are a bit flat for a bit, and then boom at the end
exactly.
once you've done the hard
Yeah,
work, and then it's what do you do with all the money you have? It's give it away, change the world, create stuff, fund things. Yeah. Um, yeah, leave a good mark. Okay. Money milestone number 5, I've put here is just no mortgage or like accommodation being sorted. So you don't have like a hefty bill every month. I think, say, Alex, if you and I, our mortgages were suddenly just paid off and we had whatever we pay monthly, £1,000 to £2,000 a month spare, that would
yeah,
be enormous in terms of our trajectory towards being financially independent. It would do a huge amount having like a 4 figure sum not spent.
yes. Yeah, I cannot stand my mortgage, and yeah, I think there's such a trapping um thing. I think I heard somewhere mortgage is, I think it's like Latin for death pledge or something like that.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. I've heard the
Y-
exact same thing. Yeah.
yeah, and so, but I think for me that it's such a big milestone. I think we've done an episode before. On, do you invest? Do you pay off your mortgage? Do you do a bit of both? What's the best route? And it is very personal. But yeah, I think, and also you don't have to pay off your mortgage in the same house that you live in. You could always downsize or move to a different area with the money that you got from your house and then buy something for cash. And that's you then mortgage free. So there's lots of ways of getting rid of it without just, paying it off whilst you're in that same property. But I think as a milestone, this is really big. And I don't think I've ever heard of anybody that's been upset by after they've paid off their mortgage.
No, no, I've never heard anyone in any forum ever.
I've never heard kind of, oh, you know what? I wish I had it
Yeah, I
still,
wish I
and I
still
wish
had
I'd
my mortgage.
continued with the daily grind. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, robotically, you might have been better off investing with history being your guide and looking back, but you'll never know that. I think I'll feel a lot happier knowing that we own our house, all the bricks in it belong to us now. Um, and it does come like with you have to do maintenance, etc., and you're liable for costs to keep it going, and etc. But not having like that bill is
yeah,
huge, absolutely
yeah.
huge. It would take
It's
such a weight off,
yeah,
similar to coming out of loads of debt. I think. Well,
yeah.
it is a
Well,
debt,
that's exactly
basically,
what
isn't
it
it?
is. It is exactly what it is. I think the only
Yeah.
difference is it's backed by an asset which generally goes up in value over time. Um,
Yes.
and that's why it's seen as like good debt. But for me, I don't. Yeah, yeah, jury's definitely still out for me on whether it's should be seen as a good thing or a bad thing. For me, I just think it's a place to live, and you don't want too much of your money tied up in a house. Is my personal preference. I much rather have money liquid in investments than in bricks and mortar.
Yeah. So you can't spend bricks, can you? You can be incredibly asset rich and own like say a £2 million house, but have no
Yeah,
money day to day. And actually, I'd argue you'd be worse off than if you had a £200,000 owned house and you had 1.8 million
agree.
invested in spendable cash.
I would
Like,
always prefer to be in the
yeah,
second pot there than the first pot.
definitely. Definitely, yeah. You can't eat your house. You can't eat the bricks. You can, as you say, like with a lodger yourself, you can use it to generate you some money, some income. But in my opinion, houses are always liabilities. They're not assets because they rarely put money
Yeah,
in your pocket. They're very, very good at taking money
they
out of
are.
your pocket, which in my book makes them a liability.
I think that's yeah,
Yeah.
super. That's a Robert Kiyosaki definition, I think, isn't it? And I think it is the yeah perfect way to sum it up. So yeah, massive milestone.
I think a lot of millennials get it backwards. Yeah, huge, huge. And number six, the last one, or 6.5 or 7, as we've added some things as we go. I've just put like time
Yeah,
freedom or just reaching financial independence, like getting to that point where you have enough money generated by your investing portfolio to pay your monthly outgoings means you no longer have to work. And by this point, you've probably reached enough in your pensions, so that grows over time to provide you an income after you hit retirement age. And if you can bridge the gap, as we call it, the ISA bridge, the investment ISA bridge, from when you stop working to when you can start claiming your pensions at whatever age they'll be by the time we get there, you've essentially done it. You've won back control and freedom of your time. Um, and if you want to go and get an espresso at 10 a.m. in the morning and not go to work, you don't have to. You have that choice and that option. So number six, the final one for me and us, is just having total freedom over your time. No more emails, no more calendars, no more meetings.
that not unless you want to, and then in which case that's fine. But I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the
it's
fact
optional.
is you don't have to do it, which is the whole point of this.
Yeah, the holy grail, isn't it? You're getting to
Yeah,
that point where you have really total control over what you do with your time. Unless you commit crimes, then you probably won't.
yep,
Um,
yeah, true.
but yeah, just yeah, we obviously no crime, please. But just having that when you get to that point, and it's like this huge breath of fresh air, I think. And when I sometimes I get embroiled in like finance conversations at work because some of my colleagues know that we run this, and I kind of know some things about money, and they're like, they'll say about, I can't wait to retire. I'm now 45 and I can't retire till I'm 65 or whatever, something like that. And I'm like, actually, retirement's a number. It's not an age. You don't have to wait until your mid
Yeah,
60s or whatever to retire. If you can afford to live your life before
yeah,
then, no one's going to chain you to your desk. Like you can leave.
yeah, exactly. I always say that like money's a pounds in your bank account. It's not an age.
Yeah. And it can't, they're just like kind of look at you and they're like, what? And then you explain a bit more and they're like, oh, okay. So they kind of understand the groundworks here, but some of them are not willing to make the sacrifice into like not spending all of their money every month and needing to
Yeah.
work. Yeah. Have you got any other thoughts on anything you'd like to add in terms of those milestones? Or
No, I think that's a nice list, and I think we could. There's probably an episode where there's the different phases of financial independence. We can maybe do that. No, like with lean fi or barista
yeah,
fi
yeah,
and all
coast.
that. But fat fat fi, coast fi, yeah, exactly. I think these are really good, yeah, solid milestones. And then there's probably a separate episode we could do on the 4 or 5 different financial independence milestones,
Yep.
just to give people some additional things to measure themselves by.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good idea. And the one thing I've kind of got or gleaned from kind of chatting with you about these is they're doable.
Yes.
Like it takes some of them take a bit of time, right? You're going
Yeah,
to save £1,000 in cash much quicker than you're going to get to six figures in your investment account, unless you have a huge windfall. But they're doable. They just take different amounts of time and effort.
exactly. And I think it's, yeah, keeping that discipline, keep the long-term game in mind, and it does come around faster than you think. And it does start
Yeah,
to add,
absolutely.
and I think that's it, is the snowball starts to get bigger, but you've just got most of the energy comes at the beginning. Um,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
that's the
it's you
hardest
doing
bit.
the heavy lifting,
Yeah,
putting the money in, and then eventually the compounding takes over. It does the hard work for you. I take your foot off the gas and leave it be,
yeah.
which would be buy. Yeah. Okay. So let's move quickly to a
Reasonable or ridiculous?
flight themed reasonable or ridiculous because we both went on holiday. So, Alex, my question to you this week is it reasonable or ridiculous to pay extra money on a flight for it to be adults only to avoid having any screaming children aboard said plane? Um, what do you think? How much extra would you pay if you agree, or would you not think it's worth it? And is there a limit on how many hours you're in the air or not?
Yeah, yeah. Having just come from an adult-only hotel for 10 days and having had flights both sides, which were full of screaming children, I think it's very reasonable to uh, pay if there was such a thing as an adult-only flight. I think for me, if it was an hour or two, or maybe an hour, 2 hours, yeah, 90 minutes, I'd probably anything below that, I wouldn't be too bothered. But certainly, like for example, the flight to Greece was like 4 hours. It's cramped, it's horrible, it's hot, it's smelly. I would definitely pay to not have children on board because they were crying constantly. And so, yeah, in terms of how much is a premium, maybe I don't know 20% premium, maybe that kind of range to pay to have an only flight. I would happily do that because I think my enjoyment, I feel a lot more refreshed. I'd be not in a bad mood and cursing children when I leave the plane. So 100%. How about you?
I don't know. Could it be solved with a pair of noise cancelling headphones?
Well, I do have noise cancelling headphones, I should hasten to add, and they were completely ineffective against the high-pitched screaming of different children. So
There's
maybe I need
something.
better noise cancelling headphones. Maybe
There's
that's the answer.
some marketing thing here. There's a space for a product. Either good, plain worthy noise cancelling headphones in like that echo chamber of like a big piece of metal in the sky, or maybe we pitch to the airlines to do an adult only flight and give us 2% of their revenue. Whatever.
That, yeah, maybe that. Yeah, maybe we look at that. I'm sure BA would be very receptive.
That could be the thing, and then we reach FI in about I don't know, 3 months or whatever.
Mm,
Um, yeah,
probably
who
about
knows?
25 minutes once that's launched. I bet there's the uptake of adult-only flights.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. Well, you heard it here first, probably, unless someone else has talked about it. Who knows?
and if you'd
Okay.
like to book a adult-only flight, please email us at
Yeah, do. We'll
the
do some market
yeah,
research. If you think it's a good
that's
idea
it.
and you would pay
Well,
10 or
we'll get
20% premium,
that's it. We'll get some data to go to BA with.
yeah, and we'll pitch it. I'll phone Richard Branson because I definitely have him on
Yes.
speed dial, right? Um, yeah, I don't whatsoever. Okay. Are you happy to do a quick summary?
Yes, I will. So we've had both of us had really nice holidays. The my return on heartbeats was a wonderful honeymoon, and Alex was going to Disneyland Paris on the water on the lazy river. So we talked really about kind of 6 big milestones that you would look to reach over your kind of financial independence journey. So one being saving £1,000 in cash, two getting out of that consumer debt, like a two and a half of like building up a really solid emergency fund. So anywhere generally from 3 to 6 months of expenses or whatever you feel comfortable with, which will help you sleep at night. I think three was about really kind of improving your savings rate, getting a kind of above average salary if possible, making sure that you're lowering your bills. Ideally, if you could pay off your mortgage or have mortgage free, but the point really being to generate that room within your month to month financials to help you then build wealth. Number four was about having like investment milestones, so having a 5-figure investment portfolio and then following on with like a 6-figure and then I guess potentially a 7-figure portfolio in the long term. 5 was having no mortgage, so you're clear, you own your house, you own all the bricks, and you own the roof, all yours. That's a huge, huge milestone. And then one which will that one will probably likely lead then to you being financially independent or completely time free, which is milestone number 6. And I think we concluded that reasonable or ridiculous, adult only flights, probably reasonable, but we need to do some research. I think that covers everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Another super summary. So, yeah, some market research incoming. The only other thing I'll mention before we close is last week, while Alex and I were away, we had a guest, Joel Miller, a US-based financial firm that he runs, claims financial planning. He has agreed to come back because he runs a disrupting kind of method there for doing that. He doesn't do any asset management. He just does like a pay-as-you-go subscription fee model. So I've asked him to come back and just talk to us a little bit more about that. And I wonder whether we'll see more of those kind of companies outfits here over time. He will come back at some point in the coming weeks. Thank you for your time, Alex, and thank you for your ears of listening. Do email us if you've got any thoughts or questions. We've had a couple of lovely emails this week, especially one from a chap called Paul. So I really appreciate your feedback and your kind words. It's really motivating for Alex and I, as we are 68 episodes in, to get kind of positive and negative feedback so we can learn from both. So if you have anything like that, you can email us at nursingyourwaytowealth@gmail.com. We'll read them both personally, pick it up and action it. And with that, Alex, I'll see you next week and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks very much for your time, Alex, and thanks everybody for listening. And yeah, speak soon, everyone.
None of what we discuss on the show is to be considered financial or health advice, and we recommend you always do your own research or consult an independent financial advisor or a doctor when making your financial or health decisions.